Biquette. I hope I said that right. He'll correct me if I didn't. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us.
Good to be with you.
Michael, I want to, great. Michael, I want to go ahead and start with you. The hypocrisy of it all. For Jill Biden to attend the Olympics when no other spectators are allowed. She's special. If this were Melania Trump, fill in the blank, Michael.
Yeah, it's just incredible, the hypocrisy, as you mentioned at the top of this segment. And, this has been a feature of the mainstream media since the beginning of the Trump movement back in 2015. It's different sets of rules for me and for you, right? So it's just another demonstration of the elite trying to control what us, little people do in the country. So it's just really just incredible that, there's one set of rules for her, one set of rules for the rest of us. And it's just a continuation. And as you mentioned, it's reinforced across the board by the mainstream media, right? They approve, they fawn, they love every move that they make. And yet, Trump can't do anything right. So, the contrast, and the president's talked about this recently too, President Trump, which is that, many of the things that he predicted would come true have. And this is just kind of continuation of that, of their hypocrisy and the mainstream media's reinforcement of that.
Rick, let me ask you a question. Do you think that the Olympics are a bigger deal as they once were? Do you think the American public, and maybe just not in America, do you think that people are losing interest in the Olympic Games as a whole?
Yeah, James, I think you're exactly right, man. I'm in that camp. Yeah, man, I used to love the Olympics. I used to love to root for the Americans. I loved all the the stories, the real life stories of folks that sometimes overcame incredible odds to be able to compete at that level. And then when they would carry that American flag around the track or wherever it was, we would all cheer and sometimes cry. No more, man. That's gone. I found myself rooting against the women's soccer team. Actually, I wasn't watching. I was just really glad to see the social media reports that they had lost 3-0 after kneeling for the flag. So, yeah, it's a totally different ball game. Look, the most highly educated idiots in history are running the world right now. All of this virtue signaling with the masks that don't work and the ridiculous hypocrisy, as you guys are talking about, from Jill Biden and everyone else. James, you nailed it. The American people are paying attention. They figured this out. We're sick of it. So we've tuned out the NFL, and now we're tuning out the Olympics.
Jake, what are you hearing from the folks in Arkansas? Are they noticing this more than, for example, the hypocrisy? Because we did see hypocrisy under Obama. We've seen hypocrisy. Heck, I remember seeing hypocrisy back under Clinton. But is it more noticeable now than it ever has been before? And do you think it's changing minds and hearts? Because that's where it really matters.
No, absolutely. The hypocrisy is just mind-bending, and people all over Arkansas and all over the country are noticing, but also internationally, people are noticing. Our allies and our enemies are seeing this weakness on the international stage. It's embarrassing for the country when they see our own athletes just doing these ridiculous and insane protests, showing a complete lack of humility and lack of gratitude towards our flag, our anthem, and our country that has been such a beacon for liberty and strength for centuries. And so, look, I think everyone's paying attention domestically and internationally. And look, our enemies, they're not asleep. They see this weakness. They see all the virtue signaling, and they're paying attention. They're not asleep.
One of the things that I want to know from whoever wants to take this one, what do you think the long-term impact of this is going to be on the athletes themselves? Athletes used to go into the Olympics, the heroes would come out, they'd get huge endorsement deals. They'd be beloved by the American public who just rallied around them. What do you think these athletes are going to face in their futures, especially the ones that protest while they're at the Olympics?
Well, as a former athlete, I can jump in there and tell you right now, the American people are turning this off. They're sick of these woke, virtue-signaling athletes. They're sick of the leftist ideology that's permeating pro sports and international competition. And just look at the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. They just had the lowest ratings in the history of the event after Major League Baseball moved the game from Georgia to Colorado in the wake of Georgia's rightful strengthening of their voter laws. And so I think you're going to see more and more American sports fans just turning this off, tuning it out. I think Rick said it best. No one really cares about the U.S. women's soccer team if they're going to be protesting our national anthem and our flag. It shows weakness, and people are sick of it.
Yeah, I would add to what Jake's saying, man. I think you're 100% right. I think the unfortunate thing is you've got some great athletes out there that still love the flag and love America, and they're probably going to be the biggest losers in all this because we're all tuning out. Now, thankfully, there are some winners like the UFC, where Dana White's created a free speech environment and still an environment where you can wave the American flag. And so a lot, like my family, I mean, we tune into UFC and nothing else at this point, and we like folks like, Masvidal schooling Kaepernick on what's happening in Cuba right now and all the other things around the world. So there's going to be winners and losers, but I do feel for those America-loving athletes that are competing in the Olympics right now, and we're never going to learn their stories because we've tuned out.
Yeah, Rick, I think you
you're
make
also
a
seeing
great.
another. I'm sorry, I was going to say
ahead.
Another unfortunate result of this is not only is this wokeness infused, the Olympics and pro sports, but you're seeing it trickle down to the college and even local level. And I see that in my town, where this, leftist ideology is now being promoted by coaches and to even younger athletes. So I think it's going to have a long-term negative impact on the popularity of sport. And, as a political strategist, I think there's going to be a tremendous backlash at the ballot box for all of this, cramming this ideology down the throat of athletes and former, spectators.
Rick, I think you make such a great point that gives me hope for the American fabric, and that is that people do take what they're given and make something good out of it, kind of moving on to UFC. I've seen that too. And I think, building our own new infrastructure in every aspect of life based upon sort of the lemons we've been given, making the new lemonade is I'm seeing that in so many ways, whether you take big tech or whether you take the sports lemons we've been given or the political lemons we've been given. It seems like America just knows how to make good of it. And I think that's a very promising place to end that topic on. I want to move on to our second topic. On Thursday, China shut down a request by the World Health Organization to continue investigating on the origins of the COVID-19. The WHO says their hands are tied without China's cooperation. So I want to get your take on this. Let's go to you first on this, Rick.
Yeah, let the cover-up continue. One quick comment on what you were saying, though, Gina. I love what you just said. And for us, that was painful to move away from Major League Baseball. We've been to nearly every stadium. It's been a family thing for us. But to find UFC, we got to go to a live event, and I'm telling you, the energy, the patriotism, it's exactly what you just described. We took those lemons, turned it into lemonade, and still enjoyed great fellowship with our fellow Americans in those events. But yeah, look, the cover-up's going to continue with China. Unfortunately, American politicians are continuing the cover-up. They, even Republicans as well, like Greg Abbott in Texas, who locked up Texas for a year, put us in jail, and then turned around and set us free, but won't admit that he was wrong. So this whole COVID crackdown thing is going to be full of cover-ups, full of politicians running from what they did to destroy so many businesses in America and so many lives. But certainly China is going to lead the way in hiding the facts.
Jake, let me ask you a question. Today, the governor of Alabama said that it's time to start blaming people that are not vaccinated for the condition that the country is in right now with the rise of the Delta strain of the virus. Who's blaming China, Jake, for or where this originated? Is there anybody that is actually looking to where the origin of this was and how it was handled to place blame there? Or is it only Americans who are not vaccinated who should be blamed at this stage?
Well, that was a ridiculous statement by Governor Ivey, and you're exactly right. Too many establishment Republicans and career politicians are just playing the political game, and they're totally ignoring the role that China played in unleashing this virus upon our country and upon the world. They have not been held to account, and indeed they've covered it up. China has to be held to account, and look, it's just sickening to see Governor Ivey's statements and many others, even among Republicans, blaming unvaccinated Americans. It's absolutely absurd. Look, if you want the vaccine, I'm all for it. But look, we believe in personal liberty in this country, or at least we used to. As a conservative, I believe in personal liberty. If you don't want the vaccine, you should not be bullied into submission or shamed into taking the vaccine. It's a real shame to see even some Republicans take up that tact that the radical left and the media has taken on in regards to the vaccine. It's ridiculous, and you're exactly right. China has to be held to account. We can't take our eye off the ball. They're the ones to blame. They are our number one geopolitical enemy, militarily, and of course, on the virus.
Michael, in recent days, I've noticed an uptick in the number of, I'm just going to say this straight up, conservative Republicans who are endorsing and even pushing and promoting, not unlike Governor Kay Ivey from Alabama, but I've also seen some of our conservative stalwarts come out and say in more certain terms than ever before that people should be getting the vaccine, despite that there are still questions, despite that this is not FDA approved, despite that some people just have a lot of questions left on the note of the vaccine. I'm seeing an uptick in the number of Republicans saying you better get the vaccine. What do you attribute this to? And do you think this has anything to do with, let's just put it out there, the money that Big Pharma has involved and sort of has hogtied over so much of our industry today?
Well, I think you're right. It's the wokeness of the big corporations. Pharma's certainly in that category. They're trying to impose their ideologies on all of us and set aside our free will and our choice to do what we want to do and not to do. So, as you mentioned, there are questions about the efficacy of the vaccinations over the long term. I think that if people choose to get vaccinated, that's good. If people choose not to, that's their right. And the people who are vaccinated should have no concern about those who are unvaccinated. So again, there's really no science behind this. There's very little logic. So I think many conservative Republicans, many people are sort of falling prey to the beatdown we're taking from the left on imposing their ideology on all of us on a variety of topics. This is just one of them. It's a convenient cudgel for them to beat us down and to try to set back our ability to have our own choices and free will. So it's against the Constitution. They're trying to impose restrictions on our free speech. It's not going to work. There's going to be a tremendous backlash. One thing I wanted to say too about the WHO, clearly they are part and parcel of the CCP. They're controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. It should be no surprise that they're bowing to whatever wishes China imposes on them. It's really disastrous. And again, President Trump pointed this out very early, that where the origins of the vaccine, or I'm sorry, of COVID-19 likely lied. He called it out many months ago. It was denied by the left-wing media. Now they're coming back around to say, well, maybe he's right. That's happened in a lot of cases. This is just another one of them.
Absolutely. Folks, you have the UFC of panels here on AVL today. Thank you all for being with us. Michael Glasner, Rick Green, Jake Bequette, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
All right. And to you all, don't go anywhere, because we're going to head on back out to Mount Rushmore to the Freedom Fest right after this break. You're going to want to stick around because James Golden and I aren't going anywhere, so you shouldn't go anywhere either.